You're listening to the Belmar Bites podcast, brought to you by Belmar Consulting.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the pod. I am excited to have Devan Moodley on the pod with me today. Devan, I would consider you to be a friend and a colleague. We've shared lots of conversations and meals over the years, and it's really fun to have you, finally get you on the pod. I know we've talked about this for a little bit, and but here we are. So Devan, you are based in the Toronto area. It's amazing to have you here, and excited to have you share the story of your career and the work that you're doing as an organization today at Pllenty. So rather than me introduce you any further, why don't I get you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about your story, and then we can get into talking a little bit more about the organization that you represent.
Absolutely. Great to be here, Scott. Thanks for having me on. I finally get to be on this Belmar podcast that I've watched multiple times. So, pretty excited. So, for the folks listening in, I am working or running a Salesforce ISV, and I am a reform banker. So, 10 years ago, I worked in the capital markets division of a major bank, left that bank, and then did corporate finance stuff at some publicly traded companies and over the next several years. During that time, one of the things I noted was on the payment side of these companies, boy, we were not getting very good service. It was, hey, how do I take a Visa, MasterCard payment? But beyond that, it was nothing. We seemed like we were paying a lot of money, not getting a ton of advice. And that lived with me multiple years. I didn't know what to do about it. I wasn't really responsible for it, but that was always there in the background. Then around 2015, 2016, one of my co-founders from a completely different space happened to come over at lunch with a couple other folks and said, hey, what do you think about this idea? And it was this idea of a custom payments organization of some sort. There's another company out there at the time called Braintree that was doing something similar in the US. We were talking about doing something like that in Canada. And I looked into it, took a deeper dive, and it turned out this partner, and you know Richard Scott. He was from one of a major payments company in Canada, and he had the insight on the payment side, answering questions I only saw on the corporate side. So we kind of got together and we realized we were like on two sides of the fence that never got to really talk to each other about what was really happening. And that was a meeting of the minds, and that was sort of the moment I said, maybe this corporate thing isn't for me. I've been looking to do something else where I'm in control, try to build a business. Let's do this. So that's what we did. 2016,
Cool.
kicked it off, and here we are.
There we go. There we go. So just maybe for some context, so you introduce yourself as a Salesforce ISV. So what is an ISV when it sort of in the Salesforce ecosystem? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, we could either we're the people that you're going to grab software from on the App Exchange, right? We can be those folks who are putting that up there. SIs can put apps on the App Exchange. That's what mostly where ISVs live. Or you can do custom work. So we might specialize in a specific area around Salesforce or a specific functionality, and we would work with SIs to work with their clients to implement that into their Salesforce
Right.
environment. That's us.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I ask you that question. I'll maybe answer my own question. I
Yeah.
think of an ISV as a value added partner technology that fills a gap that Salesforce themselves don't fulfill, and that can be in whole or in part. So the org that you're with, Devan, the org that I guess you've been part of since 2016 is called Pllenty, and Pllenty fills a gap in the market that Salesforce themselves don't completely address. So, 2016. So, what are we at? 8 years? No, 10 years. If I do the math correctly, that would be 10 years. So, well, that's cool. It's 10-year anniversary. Has that happened, or is that still coming?
Couple quarters. Yeah, we'll
Couple
be there.
quarters out. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll celebrate in the latter half of 2026 the 10-year mark. But Tell me a little bit about I guess, what pain that Pllenty is solving in the market.
Well, when we originally launched, so the idea that we had was how do we simplify the entire payments workflow for a commercial entity? We were thinking enterprise, commercial. We were not thinking charities and nonprofits like we're thinking today. And so to have that conversation at any kind of enterprise level, you need three things. You need security, scale, and you have to have full control of pricing. Right? That by definition means you need to be a PCI compliant service provider, full control of the flow, control of the pricing, and you have to have the compliance and security that large enterprises needed. That was great. That worked out. That's where we started. We have large enterprise customers, and that slowly morphed into something completely different as we got closer to COVID. And then when COVID hit, that just sort of took off in the charity nonprofit space.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I guess for those listening, when we think about enterprise, when we think about charity and nonprofit, Salesforce, we as a Salesforce partner that implement a Salesforce-based solution, we have worked across many industries, many verticals. The one where I guess we have a lot of overlap today is working with the charity space or the nonprofit community across Canada, across the US. And when we are talking to these organizations about bringing Salesforce in, or maybe they already have it implemented and they're looking for a solution that Pllenty provides. I'd love for you to share, some of the questions that you're getting. Like, what would be prompting someone to think of talking to Pllenty about solving a particular problem?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And the reason that's a great question is because we didn't actually know what our value add was in the charity space until we accidentally got pulled in um, to that side. So fundamentally, we had these enterprise clients. A lot of them were executives, working at charities. One of them one day just said, "Hey, why are we as a charity looking at these different options? I have a better payment option to accept donations with my corporate service provider." So he came to us and said, "Hey, can you guys work with charities?" And we looked at each other and said, "I think so." So that's what happened in 2018. We didn't push it hard, but we learned more about that charity nonprofit space starting around that time. COVID hit soon after, maybe 2 years later. And then one of the things we noticed was, boy, there's a lot of large nonprofits that had implemented Salesforce that were struggling. And what were they struggling with? They were struggling with things like, well, we have thousands of donors who are calling in to change monthly amounts, to pause card payments, to stop card payments, to could have been anything. Um, we need to change the tax receipt, do this. There was just a whole list of items, and it was overwhelming customer service departments. They need a Salesforce tool, they need a payments tool. All the changes were being made in the payments tool, and you had all sorts of issues going on, and it was just hours and hours. That yeah, that scenario, it, not exactly the same at each place, kind of played out for about 2 years. It was an SI would call us, or an enterprise or a charity would call us that had Salesforce. It was already implemented. They already had a payment solution, and there was always a list of 5 to 10 massive problems, and they didn't know who to go to. So we would go in there with our tools and solve those things.
Right, right. So just if you can expand a little bit on the problem. So somebody who's listening to this in 2026, sort of we'll put some category around this. So they're a U.S. or Canadian-based charity. They have Salesforce. They accept donations today online, and those donations are processed, but they're having pain. What is the pain that Pllenty solves?
Yeah, it could be any number of things. It could be, hey, we've got pain, we've got record batching pain. We've got things changing in a payment platform. They don't get matched properly from a record perspective into customer records in Salesforce. And we're doing all this data deduplication stuff. Like it's taking hours. That could be it. Could be as simple as, wow, we've kind of grown. And now instead of 100 monthly recurring donations, we're doing 10,000 twice a month. And we're having all sorts of problems with cards expiring and rejections. And that is taking our customer service team hours and days to resolve after the fact. Because there's how do we reconcile that? We've got multiple platforms. Who do we call? Support tickets, you name it. Or just simple things like why am I paying for two tools? Why is my payments platform driving all my monthly donations and having to be matched into Salesforce? Why can't Salesforce be the only thing my customer service team and my people use as the single solution, as the source of truth? Right. So not all of
Yeah.
those things, could be one of those things, could be all of
Sure.
them. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But typically,
Yeah.
they just don't know who to go to. An SI is not a PCI compliant expert, right? Typically, their gateway is not going to do those professional services for them. So there's a gap, and we
Yeah.
fill that
Yeah.
gap. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's well. That I
Yeah.
think that's very concise in terms of the value that Pllenty bring to the market. So simplification, reduction of number of tools, much easier from a data hygiene perspective. And just in my own experience, and we don't receive donations at Belmar. We don't use Pllenty for payment processing. So my reference and experience with Pllenty has been that you guys are just a great partner to work with. Very, very easy to work with, and it's been I forget how many years back this relationship goes, but it goes back many, and we've together worked across numerous customers, and it's always been a very positive experience working with you guys. And you're just such a trusted partner of ours, because we know that when we get into that ring with a customer and we need to bring a payment solution to the table, we know you guys just handle it so well, and the feedback that customers provide to us after the fact is always positive. So it's cool to hear just a distillation of what pain that the organization is solving. As we were talking in preparation for this conversation today, I was asking you for just some sort of ideas in terms of questions that we could go back and forth on, and one of those is around just the value of the Salesforce plus Pllenty relationship. And when I'm referencing Salesforce, I'm referring to Salesforce as the technology that a customer is using within their organization. So if expand on that a little bit in terms of what's that value that somebody is going to get from that Salesforce Pllenty relationship.
We have, when we think about large enterprises, in particular on the charity nonprofit side, the number one space from a technology process perspective they put their time, energy, and thought into is the CRM. It's going to affect everything. It's going to affect their accounting, their receipting, their ability to grow, you name it. And people like yourself and my spouse, spend a lot of time convincing or trying to push charities to think about the future. And if they think about the future and scale and security and flexibility and all that stuff, it'll usually lead to a solution like Salesforce. All that energy, all that time, and definitely money, when you've convinced them to go down that path, goes into what they think of as a classic CRM with lots of flexibility down the road, right? When you think about, though, once the CRM is in and you have this great reporting, whether you're doing grants or you're fundraising, or you're using tools for money, and you can track what people are donating, etc., you realize that the fundamental flow of information beyond just what the individual customer is doing, the life cycle of that donor, it's really about donations and payments flow, right? How can you have this CRM be the source of truth for both the donor life cycle information plus all of the actual payments lifecycle information. Historically, that lives in two different places. You got the CRM, you got some payments tool, and there's some matching thing going on in the back end. And, it's the payments tool that's the engine to drive the monthly, yada, yada. What we're doing is we're trying to change that. We are saying to folks who spent all that time, energy, and money implementing a great Salesforce solution, here's another way for you to get an ROI on that investment, right? And it that is tangible to everyone. Your staff is going to save hours, save time, and I think it's also great for the Salesforce universe, right? Better traction, more retention, and that's kind of what we're seeing when we get things right. We make mistakes too, but I think on average, when people see the solution and work with the tools, and maybe the most important thing is so much of the discussion is focused on the upfront solution. What's your functionality? How are you going to fix this piece? How are you going to fix this piece? How are you going to fix that piece? The reality is, there are probably many people, if you paid enough money, that could do some version of that. But we find and we believe the true value is in our team being there to answer the questions and fix all the issues that come up in the weeks and the months that follow, right? You may have someone put something in, right? Like, we have situations where people are not necessarily upset with the functionality. They're upset with the fact that they can send a ticket to a gateway and not hear anything back for 2 weeks, right?
Right.
On
Yeah.
something they think is critical around a reporting period. So we think something as simple as that is value added for us.
Yeah. It's interesting that you that last piece that you shared is, um, and I'll rephrase it, is that there will be problems. There are always problems, and this is something that I communicate often to not only my team, but also and more importantly to our customers, where customers enter a relationship. I mean, we all enter a relationship that in a business environment or in a I guess a personal relationship type environment with expectations, and if those expectations are not being lived up to or met, well, then that's where challenges sometimes arise. We certainly see that when we're implementing a solution. A customer has a particular view of what the solution needs to do for them, and as we work through a project together, uh, it becomes more clear to them what the solution is actually able to do. And sometimes there's misalignment. So I communicate that very clearly, as often as I can with customers, uh, and that is what you should expect is that there will be some challenges as we go through this, and that's normal. It's how do we resolve those together? How do we work through those together? And so what I'm hearing from you, Devin, is you guys have got this amazing technology, but even with the best technology and the best implementation of that technology, there are still some challenges that arise, and the support that customers get from Pllenty is top notch, and that's been our experience. And so it's just great to hear you articulate that, because uh, I'll share an interesting story. I met actually with a customer yesterday, and this is sort of to frame the Salesforce, the capability of the Salesforce platform. So this organization started out at about 100 employees, and when I say started out, when we first met them, they were about 100 people, and they chose Salesforce, and they went through a fulsome implementation of Salesforce. They were not using it so much for donations; they were using it for managing programs. And through that journey, they got to know Salesforce, and they got to begin using this tool, but they didn't understand the benefit that it brought to the organization until they scaled. And over the last 5 years, they have scaled now to in excess of 1,000 people, and so a tenfold increase. And I was meeting with one of their leaders yesterday, and he just shared with me that he said, like, we didn't know the benefit. We perceived a benefit back when we implemented this, but my goodness, are we ever experiencing a benefit today? And I think that's just such a testament to the capability of a Salesforce-based solution. And then when we're plugging in sort of best-in-class uh, products like Pllenty into the mix, regardless of size, small, medium, or large, these organizations can benefit significantly.
Yeah. The other thing I would add. So there's the back end around the support and the guidance and being there. There's also this front end piece um, that I think their clients need to be more aware of. You do not, if I'm speaking to a charity or nonprofit, like 99 times out of 100, they are not experts on payments flows. They don't even have board members or typically IT people who are experts on payment flows. Last year, we spent 6 months engaging with a large enterprise nonprofit, just talking to them about something they thought was a massive potential problem internally. Right? 6 months, pretty much. Back and forth questions, Q&A that went between us, myself, executives there, and none of that led to an SOW. It led to an RFP that went wide, right? But we're fine doing that. I think that having a good partner, having a trusted partner should also mean someone that you think will give you solid, independent advice to do the right thing for your organization, right? I'm on the board of a charity and I understand the value of that. So I'm happy to be on the end where, I can provide that to other charities. They may not choose us in the end, but hopefully they just made a better decision on the way there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's an interesting way to think about it. Is and I guess I put ourselves into a similar category. We are often providing advice, and sometimes customers choose to select us as their partner. Sometimes they don't. But I think if you're providing value, and that we equate this to what value do you bring to the market? If you're creating value, that value, people want value. People are looking for value, and so that's and again, I feel like I'm pumping your tires here a lot today, but we've felt that, we've seen that, and you
Yeah.
said most executives, most nonprofits, are not payment experts. I mean, I'll put myself in that category too. I'm not a payment expert, but I want to partner with somebody who is, and is thinking about the things that I should be thinking about, and helping me to make the best decisions. Um, let's maybe transition our conversation into the future.
Yeah.
There's so much change happening in our world from a technology perspective. I've been following obviously AI is such a massive category now, and it's benefiting so many people in so many different ways, but I think there's an equal amount of just unknown about the future. How, is AI and payments, are they connected? What are you seeing today? Where do you think this goes as we look out over the edge of a time horizon?
Well, it's a huge question. It's going to change a lot of things. I Number one, between what Google is doing, there are all sorts of universes that are trying to um, bring AI and easy checkouts and agent-driven checkouts, all those kinds of things to the market. Whether or not they're the right thing for you as an organization is a completely different story. Um, when we look at why are people calling us in? Like why are organizations struggling that already have payment solutions from large gateways and big SIs? It's not because they don't have the right checkout. They don't have Google Pay or Apple. It's something else. It's something else that's broken. It's typically something that's broken between the forms and the data and the matching or the reconciliation. So often finance teams are left out of these discussions around how to implement everything. And so when we think of AI, we think of it very tactically. Like today, we do a bit of sort of, I'm not going to call it machine learning, but we do some intelligence when it comes to matching, right, between the data that comes in and versus the records that exist already. Could we use AI to make that more powerful and make that faster? Absolutely. Are we thinking about things like that? For sure. So that it's there. It's a thought, it's a process, it's something we're considering, but it's not related to. payment checkout. It's kind of related more to process flows and pattern recognition. So wherever there's something related to pattern recognition, we think, yeah, let's talk AI, let's talk ML. We think that could be a better way to do things. From a data security privacy perspective, checkouts still need to follow some rules. We still need to be able to meet the compliance and security requirements of many large charities and commercial entities. And at this point, they're not just going to hand over that stuff to, you know, some payment agent. Maybe it's coming down the road, but even if it does come down the road, it needs to be integrated back into everything else that they're using. So I would say it's here. It's here at different places from our perspective when it comes to integration. But we are watching, what's happening
Yeah,
on the payments
yeah.
front. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I guess another way to describe, what you guys are doing is you're those payment rails, and I think it's like that's going to continue in the future in terms of, somebody enters a card into a form, and at the other end comes a transaction. You guys are facilitating that. But what you brought up was the pattern recognition, the predictive side to, their propensity to, if we think about a charity, to donate more frequently, to donate less, to donate less frequency. Like there's all this predictive side that's happening, which really, by the sounds of it, is not touching the rails that payments are being transacted on. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I asked that question really just to get an understanding of how you're thinking about that, because conversations that we're having, uh, you know, any leader in an organization today certainly needs to be considering, what impact is AI having within their organization, within their customer base, within their donor base, and how can they use these new tools. And so we've got vendors like Salesforce who are building uh, AI into their platform in the form of Agentforce, and so they're actually providing a tool that a customer can use. But uh, it's just it's a question that I'm asking anybody in my industry today, for their perspective on this. And so I appreciate the thought around pattern recognition. I think that's potentially just a huge play.
for sure, for sure. There's and there's when we think about what is the strategy that we need to keep in mind if we're going to consider whether AI fits or ML fits or whatever it is we're going to apply. Pattern recognition for sure is up there. But one of the other things that we're watching is what are the successful tools? 2 or 3 years ago, it was just OpenAI. And then you had people playing around with last year Perplexity, and then this year it's all about Claude and whether or not you're using the free version or the paid version, yada yada. And how do you track those things? Even if you thought that you need to give a bunch, you're not sure which ones are going to work for the kind of flows and tools and things you have going on. Even if you were to offer 2 or 3 of those to your dev team, how do you know that each person's going to be productive with them? How are you going to track that data? How are you going to know um, whether they're successful or not? Right. There's that question. That's a question that I've been having with a few people, right? Because everyone's aware it's here. Everyone is aware of some of the tool options. So which ones do you buy? Which ones do you give to whom? How do you figure out whether they're working, or maybe you got the same few tools for 5 devs, and one is up and to the right on productivity with one of the tools and the other three are you know not quite there. To even know that that gap exists is something that I don't know how to get that data today, right? So like there's the whole front end about where, what, how it's going to do things, and then there's the whole back end with, okay, I bought a bunch of it, I gave it to a bunch of people, is it working?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we're in a very interesting time in the AI journey, the trajectory that we're on. There's a lot of there's a lot of it's very fragmented, and I think what will happen over the next year to 2 years is there's just going to become more product uh, developed around these tools to at the end of the day, I'm not willing to put my organization at risk. I would say none of our customers are willing to put their organizations at risk because of, sort of the AI hype. But at the point tools start appearing that are actually solving problems, that are, commercialized tools, and they've got the security and all the necessary uh, guardrails put in. I think that the adoption of that is going to really begin to accelerate. And so no, that's interesting, Kevin. And I wanted to ask you just get your perspective, and
Yeah.
it's we're trying to figure this out ourselves, and I know all of our customers are trying to figure this out. So it's just really helpful to get perspective. I guess as we think about uh, anyone who's listening to this, who wants to learn more, who wants to get connected with you guys, what's the best way for them to do that? Where can they find you? Where can they find Pllenty?
Info at plenty.com. PLLENTY.com. Info. Any question, anytime. Happy to help.
Yeah, awesome. Um, well, listen, this has been awesome. This has been amazing, and I can't wait to see you the next time I'm in Toronto. And I know that's coming up here pretty quick, so we'll get a chance to see each other. So for anybody who wants to get connected, plenty.com is the website. So PLLENTY.com, or email info@plenty.com. And if you want me to get you connected to Devan, I'd be happy to do so. So reach out, and we'll get you guys connected. So Devan, thanks for doing this. I appreciate you joining me, and it's been a good conversation, and can't wait to share this
Awesome.
with the community.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Great to be here. Take care.
All right.
This has been another episode of Belmar Bites, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or on our website at belmarcloud.com.